What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on these analysis. We're going to be looking at MSTR, Bitcoin, a couple of charts and indicators. As you can see, we have closed underneath our long-term trend line that we've had established all the way back here. We've been respecting it, and we've never closed outside of it. And now we have our first close outside of it, so that's not the best sign. But remember, this thing can always turn back around pretty quickly, so don't lose hope completely. But this entire move has been completely retraced, or almost. Let me take a look here at the fib. You can see we're past the last line in the sand, which is the 886. So this entire move is practically washed. It'll be 100% washed once we hit the 357 level. So this entire move will really be nothing. So we pushed up, found rejection off of this key level that we were speaking of, way over here and way over here. We were saying that this would be a key level of resistance and this golden zone, and it served to be true, as you can see, from that 447 to around 437 mark. It was a lot of resistance, and of course now we are back with the fib on top of our head, the 0.5 to the 618. The golden zone, which we said was going to be a lot of resistance and cause a lot of chop when we were over here. And we saw it initially, and I thought while we were creating this bull flag that maybe we'd be able to rip and bounce off of it and continue higher. But it looks like we fell back underneath, and now we're underneath the 0.5. So now that's going to open up the idea of us pushing back to this 0.5, so the bottom of the golden zone, in confluence with this downward sloping trend line here, and potentially retest and push down further. So that is going to be additional resistance on top of our head. So you have this golden zone, the downward sloping trend line, and we have this upward sloping trend line. Those are all confluence to the downside. In terms of support, we have this key weekly level right here. It's a pretty solid level from 368 to about 358, but we closed inside of it, so it's not the end of the world, but we're still not bouncing off of it either, not yet at least. So maybe the zone could be a little bit lower because you're still getting your touches there. But for now, I have it drawn out like that. I mean, it's not really much of a difference, but we are closing inside of it, and we'll see how next week plays out. Bitcoin's currently sitting at 113, and if we were to break and hold this level, so if we break below this, hold it on a retest, then that could indicate a potential move to this level sitting at 325 to 312. If we were to break and hold this, we'd probably retest off of these levels and potentially push lower. Of course, if Bitcoin starts to flip back around, this thing can be a green engulfing candle, and then in the bullish case, we get that green engulfing candle close back inside of this upward sloping trend line, and this turns out to be a fake out, and then we start to have a V-shaped recovery, and we're back to square one, hopefully. So we want to close back inside of this golden zone and this upward sloping trend line. Hopefully this is some kind of a fake out move to the downside for a move back higher, close back above the golden zone, and eventually close back above the 450 range and start our move higher. Of course, we're going to need Bitcoin to start rallying if we want to see that happen. But Bitcoin has been falling off, and we'll go over that in a little bit. Here on the daily, you can see this last day was a pretty aggressive sell-off. As you can see, it was a negative 8.77 day. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, the entire market fell, so don't think it was just MSTR, but MSTR did fall pretty hard, though, along with Bitcoin and everything else. Now, the only positive sign right now for this past, or I guess on the charts that we're looking at in terms of candles, is on the monthly, we still close inside of the upward sloping trend line. So remember, the higher the time frame, the more powerful it is. So that's a good sign that at least we close inside there. And on the 3 month, we still have some time, but you can see that we close inside. So at least on the monthly, we're in a decent position for now. On the weekly SMAs, we were talking about the possibility of us pushing down to this 20-day. We weren't sure how likely it was because it was a pretty significant drop from where we were at when we were talking about it. I think it was at 420 or 415, something like that. I wasn't sure how likely it was to happen because we had a lot of confluence holding price up to the upside for a bounce. But we did close back underneath the 20-week SMA, and that's a key indicator for a bull run or some kind of bull trend. So now that we close underneath it, increases the odds of us retesting, and that's going to support the idea of pushing price lower, which kind of lines up with what we were talking about. If we were to close underneath this level at around anywhere from 358 to 353, that's going to start potentially that next move down. Remember, everything on these videos are subject to change. Nothing's guaranteed. And I know you guys want, like, not all of you guys, but some of you guys want like specific answers and stuff like that, but that's not how the market works. And if you think that's how the market works, then you're obviously a rookie and you need to like get exposed to the markets a little bit more, because nobody knows what's going to happen. So if you think somebody's going to know that, or you think somebody knows what's going to happen, then you're obviously oblivious to the market and you probably shouldn't even be investing to begin with. But anyways, we've fallen underneath the 50. We got a sharp fall off actually. So as we got the close underneath the 50-day, we were saying it could potentially retest and support the move down further. I was not expecting a drop like that, but we ended up getting it anyways. And on the 4-hour, we are bouncing off of our 200 moving average. So we'll see if we can hold this and act as support, or if we end up falling through. But that's also confluence with this 20-week SMA along with this key level of support. So we'll see if we actually hold it or if we fall through. Like I said, if we fall through, expect lower prices. I don't know how much lower, but this would be your next level of major support. Weekly RSI is starting to look kind of like a double top. When you take a look, you can kind of see that playing out. You got your peak here, mid, peak, and then a fall off. We are just above the 50 line, so the neutral zone. We are about to push into bearish territory, and it looks like it's picking up steam. And here on the daily, we are relatively low. We're sitting at 35. So I'm going to take a look and see 35. We found, let's put a horizontal line here, kind of see where we're at. So we have kind of found a bounce in this area. Sometimes we fall a little bit further, but generally speaking, this is a pretty solid zone for reversals. We dip underneath it sometimes because of the momentum, but you can see that typically is around the level from anywhere from 32 to 36. So it's really a zone. Like I said, if you use an exact line, you'll get some of your information will be a little off sometimes. So if you take it in between those two pink lines, then that's pretty much your key zone where you'll find a bounce. You can see. So I would kind of expect some kind of a reversal. It doesn't have to be from here. We can always go a little bit further down, but understand that in that pink zone, we have found reversals in the past. So be aware of that. We can still make it all the way to oversold territory, but understand that we have found reversals here. On the weekly MACD, we got our red flip, and now it looks like it's starting to form a double top. It's still in a bull flag somewhat, but I do think if we start to break underneath this midline here of this zone at around 24, it can start to turn out to be a double top, just like we talked about on the RSI. And on the daily, we are back in bearish territory, and we're getting a steeper drop, as you can see, with an increase in volume to the downside. So momentum is increasing as we're falling down. We have fallen underneath our 8 EMA here on the weekly. You can see a very steep drop. So we might come back to retest it, but it might actually act as a level of resistance, and we could actually push down further off of that level. And on the daily, we are well underneath it. It was acting as resistance, and it was supporting the move downward and kind of just suppressing price. And then we just had a steep fall off. So I do think we'll probably have some kind of retest of the 8 EMA to the upside at some point. And then we have to make a decision if we're going to actually break through and hold it and get a V-shaped recovery, or maybe like an inverse head and shoulders, or if we're going to just continue this move further down. Daily volume was huge on this day, but it was all bearish volume. All bearish volume. You can see that was sitting at 21 million. When you look at all the recent days, I'm going to go down the past couple of days. You can see 10 million, 7 million, 10, 7, 8. 10, 9, 19, 8, and that one was 21.8 mil. So that was a pretty high volume day, but all bearish. Here on Bitcoin, we have fallen on the weekly, as you can see. We're underneath our 114 wick right here, which we spoke about on the daily. We said if we get a close underneath this wick, this is going to increase the odds of us retesting and making it down to this level at like a 111 to around 110, somewhere in that ballpark. This zone could be a little bit wider, it could be smaller. So this is kind of where we're looking at. We've been talking about that over here for a while now. We're saying if we get a close and hold, that's what could play out. And it looks like it's partially playing out at the moment. We'll see if we actually end up bouncing off of that level or if we continue the move down further. If we do continue on down further after this key level of support, then we're looking at the possibility of retesting this key zone here along with this downward sloping trend line. It'll be confluence, and that should be enough support to push price further unless something catastrophic happens. Then we can even go down further, of course. But still remain bullish on Bitcoin. When you take a look at the weekly and the monthly, actually, you can see that this is a level that we spoke about well before it happened, how we had it drawn out from the 2021 highs, and we connected the December 2024 and January 25. And you can see we found resistance. We drew this out before we even touched here, and you can see we got rejected very hard off of that level, and now we're pushing down. So this isn't anything that we weren't expecting. We were getting a little bullish though as we closed above here, because that was opening up the idea of retesting and pushing higher. We pushed higher, and then we got rejected, and then we kind of just fell off from that point. So we'll see, maybe the next time we get back above here, it'll actually be the real move to the upside. But for now, it looks like it was a little fake out and some kind of reset for price temporarily. Maybe we can wake back up and continue to move higher. And as that happened, Tether dominance has started to spike a little bit higher. We were talking about if we get a daily close or weekly close above these wicks here, which we did, it's going to open up the idea of us bouncing off of here, retesting, and potentially pushing up higher. But now, as we got this spike, you can see we got the move to the downside on Bitcoin. And if I overlay it, you can see it clear. You can see that pink right there, Bitcoin falling as the dominance is rising. That's why we keep our eye on the dominance. Once we touch this blue line, once we touch the blue line that we have established on here, that's when we should find some kind of local top. As you can see, we have touched it multiple times, and that's when Bitcoin has found its tops, or at least local tops. So we'll see if that holds true on this next opportunity. And when you take a look at Bitcoin dominance, we did close right on that line, and now it looks like we got a retest, and then we're retesting again. So we'll see if we break this wick at 62.48 and we get a weekly close on the Bitcoin dominance above that, that's going to increase the likelihood of us pushing back above this upward sloping trend line. If we get rejected, then we're kind of still in the same ballpark of us continuing this move further down, which we'll see if that happens. And that would probably mean that, ETH and these other altcoins are starting to outperform Bitcoin. But right now, it looks like Bitcoin's trying to make a comeback on the Bitcoin dominance chart. That's pretty much all I have for you guys. Make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe. It always helps with the algorithm, and I appreciate your support. I'll see you guys in the next one.